This is a sign-by-sign forecast to take you from today's eclipse on the 12th of August right the way through to the lunar eclipse, the total lunar eclipse on the 28th of August. They're just short little bursts of insight according to your ascendant sign. If you don't know your ascendant sign, also known as your rising sign, you can also use your sun sign. I'm using a whole sign methodology. If you know what that means, yay. If you don't worry. Just listen to the right sign for you and hopefully it will resonate. Now, this also is flowing off the back of my eclipse forecast for Wednesday, the 12th of August. So I recorded it yesterday and I mentioned the previous full moon, the full moon in Aquarius, today's eclipse, followed by the total lunar eclipse. So what I'm doing in these forecasts is looking at the flow from one to the other to the other. Now, obviously, the first 2 weeks have already occurred. So I'm actually talking about your lived experience and how that's building to now and where that's leading you. I'm taking you on a journey and hopefully it's going to be really useful. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. If you're new to this channel, by the way, my name's Louisa. If you like the cut of my jib, then feel free to subscribe. I love new subscribers. And also, if you enjoy this, please feel free to join my free community on the school platform where I do a lot of chit chat with people. It's growing rapidly. I think there's there's about 450 people in there. It's also where I teach. It's also where I release early material as well and extra material that doesn't go on my YouTube channel. So anyway, let's get going. I'm going to start with Aries. So this is essentially an eclipse blueprint. This is the second eclipse season of 2026. In my actual eclipse forecast, the generic one for everybody, I was talking about the 3 stages of the process that we're all going through right now, from revelation to the construction and then to the crossing. And if you want to know specifically more about each of these, then feel free to check out my previous video on this channel. So it all starts, you've already been through this. This is your lived experience over really from the end of July when we had the full moon in Aquarius. That was bringing in a revelation to you in terms of friendships, in terms of your networks, and also in terms of global dreams or shared dreams. For instance, if there's something that you absolutely want to do, maybe something philanthropic, because where that full moon was activating in your chart is a place where we really like to do things with other people. Unusual actually for Aries ascendant, because mostly you like to be able to do what you want to do and not get held back by people. But anywhere where you had some kind of social goals, that was really getting activated. I also think of it as a place of the law of attraction. So you may well have had some kind of revelatory experience about what you're trying to manifest. All of a sudden, things were getting clearer about maybe why they haven't come along, and what you would now like to put your attention to. And so I think the last 2 weeks may well have been trying, but I also think it will have been opening your eyes to new perspectives. Where you are right now at the time of this total solar eclipse, today on 12th of August 2026, is you're starting to rebuild your life or pivot your life somewhat to match that new idea. What you've been thinking about over the last 2 weeks has probably gone in deep. Now, this is actually bringing you out of creating with friends, or out of creating with groups or networks. It feels almost as if you need to come back into yourself to be able to manifest what it is that you would really like to desire. It's interesting because over the next 18 months, actually just a bit less than that. Yeah, let's say 18 months because it's easier. Over that sort of year and a half, you're going to be sort of exploring the dynamic between feeling sovereign and doing your own thing versus being in collaborations with other people. And it's not to say one side is right or the other. I think you'll probably end up doing quite a good mix over this next 18 months. However, right now, it feels like to get your new projects moving, you've got to dig in deep and do it from your own perspective. If you're waiting for other people to kind of get involved and participate, you're going to be waiting a long time, because I think there's a lot of sort of chaos energy around at the moment, and people are only really able to tune into what's right for them, especially with this eclipse. So don't worry about feeling selfish. Don't worry about the thoughts of carrying all the responsibility. Right now, it feels like it's time for you to be creative, for you to step into your power. And I just want to say, like, you also have Saturn and Neptune going through your first house. I mean, this is a really big time for you. A similar eclipse happened in 2017, August 2017. So you may well have been facing similar challenges there, but there's so much more tough stuff coming in where you've been challenged, and it's helped you see just how strong you are. This is a time for you to strengthen yourself. So yeah, I think there's lots to be said for this time right now for you. I think it's going to move you. Now, where this is heading around the 28th of August, when we've got the total lunar eclipse, that's going to be activating your 12th house. Now, this is a place of endings. And funnily enough, I think that this eclipse is all about endings. It's about a change in consciousness. It's about really kind of letting go of your previous thoughts about all your collaborations. You know, this is encouraging you to take a new step, like a step you haven't considered taking yet. It's like letting go of the safety ropes. You know, I'm seeing like a big hot air balloon, and I just think you're just cutting all the bags off it so that it can go. You don't need the support from other people. Or, I mean, it could be nice to have support from other people, but it's not going to give you that kind of lift that you're really going to get from working with your own unconscious mind, your own internal motivations. And so I actually think around the end of August, you're coming into a time where you're ready to kind of let go with gratitude, let go of the way you've collaborated in the past, the way you've built things with other people, and recognize that the next few steps in your life are actually going to be really quite independent. And it's such an insanely decisive time for you with Saturn in your first house. I mean, this is also a time when you are wanting to take responsibility, and you're also feeling a little bit older, you know, so I don't think you're coming at this necessarily with the idea of let's give it a go and see what happens. It might work, it might fail. I actually think you're thinking in terms of longevity. So that's my final punt, I guess, is to say what you're doing right now, the pivots that you're making are really important because you're taking yourself seriously. And I think that's what today's total solar eclipse is saying. And it's going to lead you to make a really big decision at the end of August. So I hope that's helpful for you, Aries. Sending you lots of love. And if it would be helpful to look at your chart with me, then just feel free to get in touch, invite me to work with you. My links are below. Or if you want to explore things, funnily enough, in collaboration in a community, then just feel free to join my free community on the school platform. Anyway, have a good one and catch up with you all soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Taurus. This is for you if you've got Taurus rising, or if you are actually a Taurus sun. What I'm going to do is take you on a bit of a step-by-step journey through last month's full moon in Aquarius to today's total solar eclipse, and to see how it is flowing into the total lunar eclipse at the end of the month. This month, August, 28th of August, 2026. So this is the second eclipse season and the last eclipse season of 26. And this is a big one. You might recognize that some of the themes right now may well remind you of what was going on in August of 2017, when you may well have been facing very similar choices. This is bringing up, I guess, decisions to consider between where you're living and where it feels safe and where it feels contained and where it feels like you've got roots, versus what happens when you get out into the world, and also what happens when you get deeper into the world and into collaboration. So this is quite a journey for you. Now, over the last couple of weeks, oh, and yeah, just before I get going, if you want a deeper look at each of these moons that I'm mentioning today, I talk about them in a generic sense with asteroids and Sabian symbols in my forecast for the 12th of August. So check that out if you haven't already. Anyway, so over the last couple of weeks, I think there's been a lot of information that's been kind of revelatory, almost like you've revealed something to yourself, or like life has brought you new information that's helped you to see new potentials in terms of where you want to move and how you can move forwards. Now, it's interesting as well, because very recently you've had Chiron go into your first house, which I think is bringing a feeling of restoration to you. And of course, when we restore ourselves, things change. However, last month's full moon really stirred things up, and this part of your chart is about your public face. It's that part of you that, like, what are you known for in your life? Who knows you locally? Who knows you at work? What are your skills? What are your talents? How do people appreciate you? And so I think a lot of things came up, which will have given you a lot of information regarding your preferences. Now, you have had Pluto at this part of your chart for quite some time now, and he's been really calling out for some transformation. Maybe you haven't stepped fully into your power yet, and I think that's probably what this is about. Like, how can you work in a more powerful way at a deeper and more powerful level? But how can you feel rooted when you're doing it? And I think that's what we're actually talking about today with today's total solar eclipse, because to me, this is the construction part. This is where you see where you'd like to be, and you can see the impacts, like the outputs of what will happen when you start to develop your career more. However, I think you realize that if I move out there, I need to have really, really good scaffolding. I need to have really good roots. I need really good structures in place. And so I think that today's total solar eclipse is about building in the structures, building in the safety, building in that nervous system, so that you feel calm, that you feel serene, that you feel like you've got the right body to be able to do what you need to do. Again, that's really matching into the energy of Chiron in your first house, which is all about restoration. So I think right now you're restoring yourself via your home. You're restoring yourself from a feeling of safety and security with your family, if you have family, or if you're living on your own, you're building in these stronger ideas. How can you know that you've got the stability to be able to reach for the stars, literally, because that's where your focus has just been. So I think this is going to be great, actually. And one of the things that you might ask yourself is, what do I need to know that I don't yet already know, that's going to create safety in a way that is harmonized, that works with my everyday life? I say that because Venus has just gone into your 6th house. And so whatever you're building for your life has to fit in it in a really kind of organized way. It needs to feel like it's going to include your money, your health. So it's not just about getting your house right. Like, I think you're trying to build in structures that are going to help you manage your life, so that when things get busy in your career and your outward persona, you're not going to lose yourself. So it's almost like you're building a tether. Interestingly, with Aries, I suggested that it was like a hot air balloon and they were about to cut off all the sandbags. Whereas for you, I feel like you're actually building sandbags, so that no matter how big you get, or no matter where your balloon takes you, you're still tethered, you're still grounded. And I think that's really important. Now, over the next couple of weeks, as you start to build and consider how you can be more stable, but also more dynamic and in flow with your daily life, you're going to come up to a moment where we've got the next eclipse on the 28th of August. And that is asking you, it's actually saying you're going to go further when you're collaborating with somebody. Now, is this actually a real person? Is this a small team? Is it an association or a club that you're part of? Or is this you collaborating with the law of attraction? I don't know. But to me, the next step, once you've built in a few safety mechanisms, the next step is to be proactive and collaborative. Now, I think the idea here is to just expect that the right person that is similarly oriented, similarly in a similar vibe to you, is going to magically appear. I think the more stable you get and the more grounded you get, the more you realize exactly the kind of person that you want to work with, that you want to flow with. And so the lunar eclipse, now it's interesting because the lunar eclipse is almost taking you into a whole new realm. So I do think you've got to pull your finger out over the next couple of weeks to feel as secure as possible, because when the total lunar eclipse comes along, there could be an offer and there could be a person around you, and it almost feels like a magnetic pull to get involved. So I think some discernment is needed. This is quite a spiky full moon eclipse as it comes up. It's really working with Uranus, which is going to be in your second house, and it is already there, and it's going to be there for quite some time. It could mean that you need to make a quick decision and commit to something and move. It could create a temporary peak in your money or a temporary drop in your money. It might mean that your money's not that easy to manage. However, it feels like this total lunar eclipse is pulling you to do something outside of your comfort zone with somebody else. And your job right now, as of the 12th of August, is to start building in some safety. So when it's time to move, you can move and just go with it. So I don't know if that's helpful to you, Taurus. I hope it is. If you would like to go deeper with me, in a private session, then just invite me to work with you. My links are all below in the show notes. But have a brilliant eclipse season and catch up with you soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Gemini. So this is a forecast for you if you've got Gemini ascendant or rising sign, or if you've got Gemini sun, feel free to listen to this as well. This is for you. So what I'm doing here, and if you want to know more about actually this process, I'm actually working through some of my notes from my big forecast on the 12th of August, where I was talking about us being in a 3-stage process from last month's full moon in Aquarius, which brought about a revelation, like a big information drop, to where we are now, constructing our life and pivoting in a different way to where we're going on the 28th of August with the total lunar eclipse. So that's what I'm going to do, is take you on that journey. Like I say, if you want a deeper knowledge that's not necessarily just about Gemini, but for everybody, then check out that other video. Anyway, let's get going. So the revelation that was occurring for you at the end of July, I think, has come from what you've been learning in recent times. It just feels like a lot of information was coming at you very, very quickly. You've had Pluto here for quite some time, and Jupiter has been in your third house. You've now got the South Node in Leo and the North Node just going into Aquarius. So the third and the ninth house seem to just be drawing your experience from what is known and the narrative that you've held about your life versus everything that's exotic, everything that has stretched you, intrigued you, suddenly shocked the hell out of you. This is a time of the known and local versus the unknown and the far, far away. Now, this can absolutely encourage you to get into a new environment. And I think last month's full moon probably gave you a bit of a startle, in as much as you suddenly realized that there was a bit of space between you and the people that you've been local with. So for instance, people that you've trusted over years, the sort of community around you. I think things have been changing for a while. I mean, you've also got Uranus in your first house, and that really reminds you actually that change is necessary. And sometimes that change means you might be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or you might be in the wrong place at the right time, or you might be, there's so many permutations of that, right? But to me, it just feels like the people aren't necessarily wrong and the place isn't necessarily wrong, but you're maybe not a very good fit for it right now, because stuff that's happened overseas or far away or in a different mindset to the one that you've grown up with, it's more important. It just feels like it's time to make a much bigger choice. And so where we are right now on the 12th of August, 2026, I think, is thinking about a pivot. you know, you're very happy to build some form of community around you. You're excellent, in fact, at creating communities around you, very committed to it. However, you want to know that you're creating the community for the right people. And you'll know that because if you are, it's going to send you far and wide. You know, it's going to rise you up. Once you're in that right community with the right vibe around you, everything that you know and share so freely is going to trigger a big release, I think, and take you into a completely new arena. And so I think on the 12th of August, today, the total solar eclipse, and over the next couple of weeks, it's really showing you that you're ready for something new, something fresh, a new environment, so that your new ideas can be planted in new, fresh soil. It's really important. To me, it just feels like you're changing the soil. You're changing the medium that you are growing in. And maybe you're like changing the food, you're changing the rhythm, you're changing the temperature. It's really important that all of the different sensory outputs that you have in your life are tweaked and changed. To me, this is a biological change for you. A bit like I was repotting some blueberries this week because I realized I was planting them in the wrong soil and they weren't doing very well. So sometimes you have to adjust, adapt, and repot. So yeah, it feels like something is stirring at home and stirring within your community. Now, this is likely to bring up a sense of belonging to a new set of people or a new place. Now, the South Node coming into Leo, as it is right now, is also showing that your sense of belonging to somewhere is starting to fade. It just feels like, I've done that now. I don't belong here anymore. And so you might not already know where your next place is that you belong to. So for now, all you need to do is just belong to yourself and belong to the world and get that sense that you belong to the stars, everyone, you belong to consciousness. And I really see that you're uprooting that sense of belonging right now. Now, where this is heading around 28th of August is into a new working situation. The total lunar eclipse is going to be really pulling at the idea of where home is and where work is. It's really going to be pulling from where you felt safe to where you feel slightly threatened. Not to say that feeling slightly threatened is a good thing, but slightly challenged, slightly out of your depth. You know, this lunar eclipse coming up, I think, is bringing up such new ideas, because when you're in the right place, the new ideas flow. And those new ideas are just taking you ever so slightly outside of your comfort zone, but it's the right move. And you know, with the North Node changing signs from Pisces and into Aquarius, that's also showing that when you found that right place, the right knowledge, the right thing that you're going to be sharing or working with, you are going to need to study more or expand your mind even more. It's absolutely, in fact, you'll know you're on the right track, because the need to expand your mind further comes up and it feels natural and it feels exciting. So I hope that's helpful to you, Gemini. Really sending you lots of love at this time. I think it's quite exciting for you. And if there's any way I can help you in the future, then just feel free to book an appointment with me where you and I can sit down and we can have a good old chinwag about your chart, about all the potentials, and see what comes up. I think conversations, given that you're a Gemini, conversations are actually where we get all the revelations, all the revelations that you might need. So have a good one and catch up with you real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Cancer Ascendant. This is for you. Now, I don't know if you call it Ascendant or rising sign. And if you don't know your rising sign, but you're a Cancer Sun, feel free to listen to this because I think it's still going to be very relevant. So what I'm doing today is exploring the story of the previous full moon, today's total solar eclipse, and where it's heading to with the next lunar eclipse, which just happens to be in 2 weeks' time on the 28th of August. So I'm taking you on a journey. Half of it's already known, so this should actually help you. I'm helping to uncode or decode what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Now, why that is important is because, A, you've got a Cancer vibe, and Cancer is ruled by the moon. So moon stuff's really important to you. But I always think that the last eclipse, the degree of it and the meaning of it carries over until the next eclipse comes along. And there isn't another eclipse until early, like late winter, early spring of next year. So this is guiding you to where you're going to be making a bigger decision around 28th of August. So you've got a heads up, and it's a longer term picture. Anyway, let's get going. So yesterday, I recorded a video about the 12th of August, 2026, today's total solar eclipse. And in that, I put to you or to everybody, because it wasn't Cancer specific, it was for everybody, that there is a 3-step process. Now, if you want to go deeper into that 3-step process, check that out. It's absolutely worth listening to. You'll learn a lot about each of these moons and what they're representing. But what I'm going to do is give you a bridged version here, especially for you, so you know what flavor is going on for you. And I can see there's a lot here about value, like tons here about value. So the full moon in Aquarius on the 29th of July, so just 2 weeks ago, was bringing up a revelation, like a feeling of new information, new intel. Now, for you, I think it could have been very hidden, because where this intel was coming up was in your 8th house, and the 8th house is known for secrets. It's known for transformation. It's also known for baggage, like dealing with the baggage that maybe, like we all put baggage aside, don't we, and triggering until we're ready to like peek at it and open it and see if we're actually ready or mature or aware enough to know what to do with it. And so it's a bit like that sort of proverbial cupboard under the stairs, or, you know, the place where you hide all the shit, the stuff that you can't process. And so I think last month's full moon in Aquarius gave you a real sense of what's hiding, what unmentionables there are. And it might not be your stuff. It might be that you're aware of other people's intentions or feelings about you that were difficult to process. It's difficult because the 8th house brings up stories of shared assets, shared ideas. They can often relate back to our original family, like our birth family and our ancestors. So it might be that you've heard something in your family. Death and dying also comes up here. So to me, this is pulling us back to ancient stories, pulling us back to stories of childhood, in particular, the ones that patterns have become associated with. Now, there's something else about this. The 8th house is about value. Like, how do you communicate your value? How do other people, in particular family members, how do other people value you? And how do you value yourself with other people? So I think all of that would have been coming up, and that in itself can really put the cat amongst the pigeons. So I imagine the last couple of weeks have been kind of up and down. I don't imagine it's been kind of plain sailing. Not to say I don't think you can cope, but the Cancer energy and the moon flows, they're absolutely so strong. And this full moon was in a conjunction with Pluto in your 8th house and in opposition to Jupiter, Cazimi, in your 2nd, which is bringing me to where we are now. So last month, it was also reminding you that when it gets difficult with other people, there's a really strong impulse to kind of do it yourself and to say, do you know what? I can't change those people. I can't change how people think about me. In fact, when I try and do that, I end up with a lack of agency. Right now, I just want to look after myself, take complete responsibility for myself. I've got what it takes. It's that knowledge that I know I've got what it takes. And in fact, today's total solar eclipse, 20 degrees in the sign of Leo, is beautiful in your 2nd house. This is about rebuilding your self-esteem, rebuilding your confidence, taking it up a notch, feeling like there is value to you, recognizing what is valuable about you, recognizing all the gifts that you've got that people might like. And FYI, you might have actually ignored some of your gifts because they were the ones that you were maybe taking the piss out of for, or put down for. So, and I love this phrase. I got this from Access Consciousness and Dr. Dane here, but what if the wrongness of you is actually the rightness of you? And to use, I can't remember which person spoke about this, but there are acres of diamonds. We all have acres of diamonds somewhere, you know, like stuff that we've done in the past and maybe forgotten about. And sometimes we have to remember all the different things we've done, all the different skills we've done, even the things that maybe we haven't taken with us because we thought it was the wrong flavor for the people around us. That's the stuff I think we might be talking about right now. There's stuff that comes naturally to you. And it might not be what you've wanted to do. It might be, oh, I'm a bit afraid of doing that. But this total solar eclipse is actually coming up to challenge you and to say, you've got this, you can do this. And why not? What's to lose? And so there's this really dynamic new energy coming up. And I really think you can be spoken into it. And I think you can talk yourself into it as well if you're a little bit hesitant. So if you know what I'm talking about, brilliant. So yeah, I think there's going to be some real reconstruction of your life in terms of how you value yourself and maybe whether you work for other people anymore. You know, maybe you're going to come into a place where you're going to have more control over your earnings, more control over your resources, and more control as to how you play around with all the things at your disposal. So I'm seeing freedom and sovereignty here. I'm not seeing that you're going to get trapped. I'm seeing that you are making a decision so you feel free. Now, this might also require you to let go of an old identity, because the South Node is also in the second house, suggesting that something that has given you self-esteem before, something that you've used before, might now be ready to let go of. So you might need to build self-esteem about something that you're really not that confident about. And that's actually probably the right thing, because some learning is definitely involved. In fact, as we come to the total lunar eclipse, which is coming up on the 28th of August, so in a couple of weeks' time, the full moon here, and it's an eclipse, it's a total lunar eclipse. It's encouraging you to learn, it's encouraging you to travel, and it's encouraging you to try something really new. So if you're ready to construct something new, that's because you're feeling the call and the pull to do something very, very different. Now, I can see that might be a bit difficult. Like, you know, with a strong Cancer energy, there's a much bigger preference for what you already know and where you're secure. However, this is one of these times where it's important for you to realize that there aren't always these safety guardrails. Sometimes we have to just kind of step out. And funnily enough, you know, with the moon flow, and of course you're the king or the queen of the moon flow with your Cancerian energy, the moon is changing all the time. Sometimes it is coming in strong in those waxing moon flows where everything is working for you and everything is obvious. And sometimes we're in the waning phase. And so what I'm saying right now is you might be experiencing this sense of, I don't know what's coming, and I've got to be okay with it. It's just like a waning moon phase, you know, where you have to be your own light. Yeah, and that can be a little bit disconcerting. However, I think this is a really good move. Now, I just want to remind you that this may well have happened before. You might have got very close to making a big decision around August of 2017. There are going to be some similarities around this. The last time this happened, you know, it was also activating your second house. But the new stuff coming is good. Now, one final thing you might find as you start to make these changes and new choices, that there's some old memories that come up and surprise you. And I think that's your unconscious mind trying to keep you a bit safe. This total lunar eclipse is kind of shocking. It's in a T-square with Uranus in your 12th house. So to me, it feels like your unconscious mind is going to try and challenge you. It's going to say, oh, I don't think it's safe. I don't think you should do this. But the eclipse and also the nodal pattern is saying it's time to experience more. So that's where I'm going to leave this. Hope that's helpful to you, Cancer. If you would like to have a deeper dive into your personal chart, then just get in touch with me. Invite me to work with you. All of my details are below. Just literally go to Calendly and book in my diary, or maybe join me in my free community on the school platform. But have a great eclipse season and catch up with you soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Leo. This is a forecast for you. It's an Eclipse Blueprint forecast. And this is taking you on a journey that you've already experienced a little bit. I'm referring back to the 29th of July, because that set the scene for what's going on right now. And then I'm going to take you a couple of weeks into the future. And interestingly, this lunar eclipse that's coming up in 2 weeks' time, that degree, that eclipse is going to linger. We're going to feel the impact of that for quite some time until the next eclipse comes around late winter next year. So yeah, this is hopefully going to help you orient yourself in a helpful way. So if you've got Leo ascendant, or you might call it rising sign, you're in the right place. If you've got Leo sun, feel free to check it out here as well. So let's see what comes up. So if you have listened to my forecast for today, for the 12th of August, I'm recording this on the day of the eclipse, then you'll know that I've already spoken quite extensively about the revelation, the construction, and the crossing. There's a lot of extra information on there, and it's for every sign. But what I'm doing now is making it specific for you. So if you want the depth and some of the background, check that video out as well. Anyway, let's get going. So over the last couple of weeks, there's been most likely some ups and downs in your relationship. Now, I didn't mean to sound so lighthearted as I said that, because it's uncomfortable, isn't it, when there's challenges coming from people around us. It's interesting because when full moons happen in the 7th house, we often are in a situation where we feel a lot of projections, and we start to question our reality a little bit, because it's really difficult to know if the people around you are just moody bastards, or whether you're putting something into this. Like, as someone recently said to me, and it really pissed me off actually, said, it takes 2 hands to clap. Okay, thank you. So I really am getting that, you know. So where things have been up and down emotionally, and where the people around you seem to be really heavy, and potentially you might be getting a manipulation vibe from them, because this full moon in Aquarius was in a conjunction with Pluto, in opposition to the sun in a Jupiter cazimi in your 1st house. So this was a time when you were feeling full of beans and really strong in your ideas, and then it just felt like there was some moody person in your life, like a naysayer, or just like a little bit of turbulence. And so I think over the last couple of weeks, you've been trying to get back on your even keel, feeling really, really great, but feeling a little bit blindsided by the people around you. Leo ascendants need quite a lot of praise. It's not to say you're fragile, but, you know, Leo ascendant, there's something about stepping into your magnificence and being central. And so you probably haven't felt as central as you probably are used to feeling. So that's something else that's going on. But what's happening right now with this total solar eclipse in your 1st house is you're coming back into yourself. And that's something I think to celebrate. This is a time when you're going to be really feeling, oh, I'm back. Oh, thank God. Now, it might take some conscious choosing. You know, in the 1st house, a total solar eclipse in the 1st house is absolutely asking you to choose what vibration you want. It's really asking you to make a clear choice. You have the sun and the moon in the 1st house making a massive eclipse and a huge pattern. You've also got Jupiter, you've also got Mercury supporting you as well. And you've also got Venus in her own sign in the 3rd house. It's almost like you've got all the aces. It feels like you are strong. You know who you are and you can vocalize it. So what's happening over the next couple of weeks is, I think you're getting a lot clearer. You're going to get a lot more vocal, and you're going to step into your power and stop expecting people to go, hurrah, Leo, you're brilliant, because it might take a while for them to get with the program. Right now, you need to feel that, and that needs to be enough. And if they're not hurrahing you, then quit trying to get that out of them, because we can never be 100% sure with the 7th house if they're doing it to you, or if you're clapping with 2 hands and adding into that situation. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You know, this is absolute mirror time. So focus on yourself, focus on the brilliant things you want to bring forward. You've got all the aces, It's time for you to build yourself up. Now, will you maybe get accused of being too big for your boots? Maybe. And I'm going to say, so what? Right now, we need people to step into their own space and to feel confident about their creative energies. And actually, it's very helpful that you do that, even if you don't feel like you're being serenaded with applause, because it's real. You're building real confidence. Now, I just want to remind you, back in 2017, there was an eclipse in the same part of your chart. And so if you can remember what was going on in August 2017, this could give you a heads up. There is also going to be another one on the 2nd of August next year, I think. So you're going to get some practice at this, so this is a construction time. You're building yourself back up. Anyway, where is this leading? And that's the most important thing. Well, this is interesting. With the total lunar eclipse that's coming up on the 28th of August, I think you're going to be creating a bigger line against or alongside the people that you normally get a hurrah from. So what I think is happening is you're building yourself up. You've got a great idea and you're going to kind of bypass, you're going to like step over that bit where you normally wait for applause and you're just going to go straight to the outcome. It feels to me like you're changing the way you transform your ideas, and it's doing them without the feedback. It's doing them without the celebration of yourself. And so it's asking you quite a lot. So it's asking you, how can you have so much certainty that you're on the right track, that you're ready to launch something and share something in the world, even if you get more blowback, even if you get more difficult people, even if you get people challenging you. So to me, it's almost like you're a secret spy, or you're on a secret mission where you have to dig in deep and just trust that you're going to be okay. And on the 28th of August, I think you need to be really ready to share a couple of words about what you're doing without the expectation that people will understand, without the need to make people part of it. It's like, how can you be your own vibration and not need participation? Because if you can do that, you're going to be transforming your life in quite a big way, because the next eclipse happening in your 8th house, as the nodes are going between your 8th and your 7th, to me, this is naturally going to be bringing in the right people. And right now, you might not have the right people around you. You might do, you might not. They might need to go through some transformation to meet you at the threshold of your project. And that's important. It's important to know that. That could be quite helpful. So, if you're trying to get somebody to like where you are right now, you might be barking up the wrong tree, because they're not the right people. It's not the right time for them. And, when you try to engage people into something they're not ready for, it's a nightmare, and it can feel like an imposition. And then people can get a little bit sarky or abusive or angry. They feel like they're being played. So right now you're in stealth mode. You're delivering something. You're building something for yourself, blind, but it's going to be okay. So that's where I'm going to leave this, Leo. I hope that's helpful. I had no idea this is where it's going. But that's the fun of doing this. I love this so much. So if you want to know more and if you'd like to work with me, then just get in touch. All of my details are below. You can invite me to work with you. You can book straight into my diary. So there's lots of space. Maybe I'll catch you another time, but have a beautiful eclipse season and maybe catch you another time. Bye for now. Hey there, Virgo. This is a forecast for you, taking you through the eclipse season in 3 stages. In fact, the first stage you've already lived through. It's there as a reference. So this is for you if you've got Virgo rising or ascendant sign, you might call it that. Or if you don't know your ascendant sign, but you're a Virgo sun, this is also for you. And I think this will be useful for you. So what I'm doing here is talking about the context that you've been living through over the last couple of weeks that has revealed something to you since the full moon in Aquarius, bringing you to where you are now with the total solar eclipse and the challenge of how you are constructing yourself and pivoting somewhat, and then bringing you to where that's leading you for the next eclipse on the 28th of August. Now, what's special about this is the last eclipse of the year, and as such, it's going to carry over. The message of it is going to carry on until the next eclipse, the first eclipse of 2027. So it's going to be carrying for quite some time, hence why I'm paying quite a bit of attention to it. So I spoke about the revelation, the construction, and the crossing in the forecast for the 12th of August today, literally for the total solar eclipse. So if you want to know a non-Virgo specific forecast that talks a lot more about what this actual eclipse is about and some of its asteroids and Sabian symbols and things like that, then please do go and check that out. However, if you want to just dive into what's for you, then you're in the right place. So let's get started. The revelation then. So what you've been working through over the last couple of weeks, I think, is feeling quite disturbed in terms of the flow of your life. The full moon in Aquarius in the 6th house, I think, was reminding you that sometimes life shows you who's in charge and it hasn't been you. I regret to say. So the full moon was in a conjunction with Pluto, is in opposition to Jupiter Cazimi in your 12th house. And I have a feeling that you want to feel a lot more important in your life. And yet it just feels like everything that was going on was because of somebody else, like somebody else saying, oh, you have to do it this way. And somebody else saying this needs to be done by this time. And so it feels like right now you really want to cut loose of everything that has pinned you in place with somebody else's expectation, so that you can feel free again. And I think probably over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot coming up, maybe, how I'm sure it's not just me that's experienced this, but like when you feel like you're under control, your money's all working out and then your boiler suddenly breaks, or you need some work on the car and you're just like, that's wiping me out of my funds. And then something else happens and you're just reminded that you might have a few months before you're broke, or you might have a few years before you're broke. But every now and again, we get this subtle or sometimes really direct sign showing us that we are not in control and just how vulnerable we might be. And so I think the last couple of weeks have shown you that. And that can be quite disquieting. That's really quite difficult. I need to sit down, actually. Hang on. Excuse me. That's better. I've been standing for all the other forecasts. I need to sit down now. So, so I think that feeling that you've not really been completely in control. And so over the last couple of weeks, I think you've been sort of wondering about, well, how much in control can I be? And is it even possible? And if it is possible, what might I need to do differently to make that happen? And so here's what I want to share with you, actually, is right now where this eclipse is happening is actually in your 12th house. And it actually happened here as well in 2017, August 2017. So I don't know what was going on for you then, but this particular total solar eclipse is about you constructing a way out. That's not to say everything's going to change, because I don't like to talk in those kind of definite terms. But this is happening at an unconscious level. And so something is being stirred in you at an unconscious level. And I think they're the levels where real change comes along. Now, the 12th house is often a sign that we're coming up to an ending. Like the 6th house where the full moon was really telling the story of how you try to run your life, but also how vulnerable you might be to sudden changes, and other people and their whims, and how other people's energies affect your day to day. And so with this particular time of construction or reconstruction. I actually think you're going into deconstruction, because it feels like you're actually wanting to cut away from anything that is pulling you or anything that's making you feel vulnerable. And so it might be that there are some people that you just don't want in your life so much anymore, or you want to cut how much influence that they have over your life. So I actually think you're going through quite a big process. And it's probably quite unseen. I suspect, because given it's the 12th house, nobody realizes what you're going through. Only you do, which actually makes it all the more sweet, in fact, because it means you can take your time. You don't have to rush. You can take your time over the next couple of weeks, and make up your mind slowly but surely. Again, I want to remind you of August 2017. What choices were you letting go of then? Because if you remember what you were letting go of and how your life continued and how it pivoted, there could be a similar pivot going on right now. And again, it's not meant to scare you or worry you. It's just there's a sense of dissolving. Sometimes we need the old life to end a little bit before the new life can come in. It can get a bit creepy and weird when there's a massive overlap between two stories. And so it's a bit like the interval in between Act 1 and Act 2, or it might be your Act 3 and 4, who knows? But you're in an interval space right now. Now, where this is coming to for the 28th of August, the full moon eclipse is happening in your 7th house, which again is bringing in the element of surprise to do with other people in your life. And so that's what I actually think the full moon in Aquarius leading into the total lunar eclipse in Pisces, they have a similar theme. So it might be that you're coming to a time of creating bigger boundaries, or like coming to work at your life from a new perspective so that other people can't affect it quite so much. To me, it feels like there's some kind of clearing conversation that might need to take place, but that it's not really happening until after the 28th. To me, it feels like the next couple of weeks is for you to review, plan, build some you time so that you can kind of come back into yourself and come into full power. What also interests me is we've got Uranus in your 10th house, and Uranus in the 10th house is also indicating there's a certain amount of change that you want to go through, in particular about how you're seen in the world and what your role is in the world. And so this might actually kind of fit in with the people around you. So here's another thought, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? That you might not have explicitly shared that you're going through some changes, and that you're already thinking about changes, and you're already a little bit restless and feeling that your story might change. And the interference from other people might be that they're trying to keep you in the same place, unknowingly that you're going through the change. So you might actually find that some of the annoyance that's going on right now is because people are sensing what's going on, that you are in a process of transformation. So just bear that in mind. The people around you might not be trying to ruin your life. They might not be trying to complicate your life. They might just be making sense of what it means to have you in their life, because they sense that you're restless and they sense your change coming in. So again, I think that's another reason why right now with the total solar eclipse, you're going into yourself a little bit, almost like a 2-week retreat into you, so that you can separate yourself and your ideas from everyone else's. The next eclipse is going to be quite psychic, in the sign of Pisces in the 7th house. It's really showing where you're tuning into other people's vibes a lot. And so right now, I think you need to take some space to make up your own mind and to know for sure you're really speaking from your own authority. So I don't know if that's helpful to you, Virgo. I wonder what's happening for you. It sounds really quite interesting. Now, if you'd like some help navigating these choppy waters with me, then just get in touch. You can easily book into my Calendly, which is where my online diary is. Or you might just want to come into my free community on the school platform. It's a place where I tend to have a little bit of a natter with people. You know, I don't always get back to people on YouTube in the status. I don't get around to it, but in my school community, that's where, you know, we kind of support each other. So maybe catch you another time, but I hope you have a lovely eclipse season, and maybe hear from you soon. Lots of love. Bye for now. Hey there, Libra, how you doing? This is a forecast for you, whether you've got Libra ascendant or rising sign, whatever you call it, or whether you've got Libra sun. This is to give you a sense of what's going on at the eclipse. We're at the eclipse right now, the total solar eclipse, that is, on the 12th of August, 2026. What I want to do is kind of pace you through this 3-step process that I believe in earnest really started a couple of weeks ago at the full moon in Aquarius, where new thoughts were coming in to where you are right now and how that's moving you towards the following eclipse in 2 weeks' time on the 28th of August. Now, I've already introduced the revelation, the construction, and the crossing in my forecast that I released yesterday for the 12th of August, the total solar eclipse. So if you want to learn more about it, and I go really in depth, talking about the Sabian symbols and also some of the asteroids that are involved, then check it out. It could be very, very useful. But this is for you as a Libra. So let's get going. Okay. So I was about to say once upon a time, but it's once upon a couple of weeks ago. We had the full moon in Aquarius. It was on the 29th of July. And this full moon, I have to say, like where the eclipse is today is in your 11th house, and the previous moon was in your 5th house. Across the 5th and the 11th house divide, that polarity isn't so shit or bust in the way that for other signs, you know, between the 4th and 10th house or 1st and 7th, it seems so much more important. That's not to say that this isn't an important time for you. And if you can remember what was going on for you around August 2017, that would have been the last time there was a total solar eclipse in the sign of Leo. And so, yeah, you might notice there are similar themes coming up. That was a really powerful one. I mean, that was the eclipse that moved me from England to Portugal. So they can be very big and have some very big energies. So, yeah, there's a repeating pattern. But this is going from your 5th to 11th. So this is, I think, a continuity, a polarity to do with creativity and finding joy and experiencing joy. So on the one hand, and this is what you were really tuning into and learning about in the last couple of weeks, is you are learning about the stressfulness of what it takes to lift yourself up into joy. So maybe you were feeling, oh my God, I have to go to so much effort to feel into joy, or when I want to have joy and follow what I love, it causes pressure for everybody else. You know, why can't I just love what I love? And, you know, the 5th house is a place where we enjoy doing our own thing. I think of it as a place of hobbies. I think of it as a place of creativity and motivation. It's also a place where we might be intimate with, and this sounds like I'm talking about masturbation. I'm not necessarily, but like intimate with ourselves. Not to say that it's sexual, although it is a sexual house, but like you're intimate with what really turns you on. Again, I'm not talking sexually, though it can be sexual. This is like, what is turning you on about life? Like, what is juicy? What is making you think this is what my life is about? And so I think the full moon was just showing you that you probably don't have enough juiciness. Like, why do other people get involved and kind of knock you off your perch? It's almost like you're happy in your own space, doing your own thing. And then somebody, like some big participant, like somebody who wants to participate with you, but like when they're starting to participate, all of a sudden it's not your project anymore. It's like somebody else gets involved. And then before you know it, the joy has kind of gone out of it. So I think that's where you've been. It's a kind of revelatory period. And so I think over the last couple of weeks until this solar eclipse happening today, I think you've been thinking, okay, right, I need to do more things on my own. I need to guard my energies. I need to make sure that people can't pee on my chips. I don't want to tell people what I'm creating anymore, because just in case someone says, oh, that's been done before, or, that people naysay. So I think over the last couple of weeks, it's just been a time where you've had naysayers. Now, I'm going to just put something to you. Those naysayers might have been picking up on your own naysaying. Pluto's here and he gives us a hard time. And so this was quite a big full moon. And I suspect you might have scared yourself a little bit and said, I really, really want this. I'm really committed to this. And then maybe you were doubting, and then some doubting Thomas came in and kind of did it for you. So just watch out for that. So, you might be blaming the wrong people, for like why you can't enjoy what you enjoy. But anyway, aside from that, where we are right now, there's the construction, and this is happening in the 11th house. Now, I will also say the 11th house is known for stepchildren. So if you've got stepchildren in this scenario, this could absolutely be coming up as a big theme right now. So the 11th house is where we collaborate. It's where we find joy with other people. And it might be that you have just recently learned, oh, maybe I just need to get with a program and create with other people. Maybe I'm learning how to create with other people. Maybe when I learn to create with other people, there's going to be more meaning in what I'm creating. Maybe I can create even more. So you can see the process I'm going through here. It just feels like you're on a trajectory to enjoy yourself more, only this time with friends and acquaintances and people that are supporting you. So again, maybe you weren't very good at supporting yourself, and actually having other people around is going to be helpful. Maybe you'll achieve more. That's my thought here. Again, cast your mind back to what was going on in August 2017. I don't mean to be controversial or suggest you're not supporting yourself enough. But right now, the construction, like how you're pivoting your life, I think it's to include more people and to maybe feel like there's a more compelling vision. Anyway, the next lunar eclipse that's coming up, or the next eclipse that's coming up, is on the 28th. And that is taking you into a very productive phase. Now, that sounds great, but it's a lunar eclipse, so it's full moony. And I also want to point out that it's also in a T-square with Uranus in your 9th house. So here's how it's looking. You have the sun in the 12th, the moon in the 6th, and then Uranus in an exact square to both of them. So here's how I see this next phase coming up. There's lots going on, and it feels like other people are making you emotional, and that you're taking time to yourself to recover. It feels like quite an intense time. And there are also some other things that are surprising you and maybe taking you out of your flow. Now, funnily enough, I actually think these things could be the reason that things also go well. So I'm going to just lay it out. So first of all, you might find that the people in your life that you're collaborating with are just a little bit too dictatorial or too forced in what they're trying to create. And so you find yourself hiding out a little bit, a bit like when I was on a French exchange when I was like 12 or 13. It was a bit too much and I stayed in my room a lot, so I didn't have to participate. So I see you kind of doing that French exchange thing where you're just choosing not to get out of bed or just choosing not to participate. However, there's something out there outside of other people's bossiness, outside of your reclusivity, that actually solves the issue at hand. Now, it might be that something shocking occurs that kind of takes you out of the kind of struggle between this is what I have to do with other people versus this is what I really want to do and chill out. However, it could be something that you're learning, like something exciting. So if you find around the time of the lunar eclipse, the new possibility for you and your collaborations is it just feels like you're at work and it doesn't feel inspiring. And it just feels like, oh shit, I just need to hide from these people. Why didn't I just follow my own nose? I would honestly say right now, go with this, but ask yourself, what kind of excitement might I need? What kind of consciousness might I need? Because Uranus is there to show you that, not just show you, but show them that there are other options. And so what I would say around the 28th is look for exotic things, look for high level consciousness things, look for things that move you outside of your usual remit. Look for study, look for subject matter experts. To me, there's something slightly shocking, slightly challenging that's going to get you to think outside the box. And once that starts happening, you're going to enjoy the collaboration so much more. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you. I hope it does. But if that does ring a bell and you're thinking, okay, I need a bit more, and you'd like to unpack this, then why not get in touch? My details are below. You can book directly into my diary. Or if you want to have conversations about these kinds of things, then in my free online membership on the school platform, we often pop in our thoughts and we chime in on each other. So it's a nice supportive community. You're very welcome to join us there as well. So have a good time. Hope your collaboration goes well, and look forward to hearing about all your wild and wacky success. Anyway, lots of love. Take care and speak to you soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Scorpio. This is for you. Now, I don't know if you've got Scorpio ascendant or rising sign. They're the same thing, by the way, just different names. Or whether you are somebody with Scorpio sun. But if you've got that strong Scorpio vibe, this is for you. Now, what I'm doing in this forecast is taking you on a bit of a journey from the full moon in Aquarius 2 weeks ago to where we are right now, and then on to the next eclipse, which is a total lunar eclipse. It's the last eclipse of the year, on the 28th of August. That's going to be, that message on the 28th of August is going to be the message that we take forwards into 2027. So it's important, I think, to work our way towards it. So what I'm going to do is take you on this journey. Now, I did talk about each of these stages in a lot more detail in my forecast yesterday for the 12th of August, 2026. Specifically about the total solar eclipse. And in that, I looked at Sabian symbols, asteroids, and more stuff besides that. So if that sounds like something that would be good for you, then check it out. But if you're just here for the Scorpio view, then listen up. You see, this is quite important. Two of these important moons are going across your 4th and the 10th house. And the 4th and the 10th house are speaking very much about the home versus the work, the career, the standing in the world. And this is quite a big time and a big place to have a total solar eclipse in your 10th house. So let me just take a step back to the full moon in Aquarius. What was it teaching us? This was a time when some kind of revelation was coming forwards. And that revelation, I would say, is very much about your security. Like, how much security do you have? How much is your security based on somebody else's goodwill? How much can other people mess with your security and completely F you up? So I don't think it's been very comfortable. And I say that because the full moon was in a conjunction with Pluto in your 4th. So it can get really, really uncomfortable. And you may well have found that people around you have been playing some real control games, really buggering you about, and that's not comfortable, is it? So I think over the last couple of weeks, you've most likely been thinking, okay, right, I do want to focus out here. That's important. But I want to make sure I've got the strength, I've got the capability, I've got everything in place that I need to make this work. And so, yeah, I think you've probably been in quite an internal up-down scenario, in a way that somebody with a strong Scorpio is going to be. You know, this is a time, like Pluto is also one of your ruling planets. So it's no wonder it hit hard. Now, at the same time, you've really been feeling itchy feet, and the Jupiter Cazimi in the 10th house is just kind of saying, hey, don't forget, the world wants to see you. You're really brilliant. You're like bright, you're joyful, come and play. So there was this real like strong energy to drag you out of your security. And so maybe those difficult people that you've encountered at home were exactly the kind of people that you needed to be able to put your eyes on the prize, which is outside. Anyway, where are we right now? So the total solar eclipse is happening in your 10th house, and this is the most public place to have an eclipse. It's also in one of the most expressive signs. Now, the last time there was a total solar eclipse in this part of your chart was in 2017, August 2017. And it was in a similar place, covering a really like similar part of your life. And so you might want to just think, what was I doing back then? Because that will give you a great sense of what you might need to do right now. Anyway, I digress. So what's coming up right now is you're starting to pivot in terms of what it is you want out of life, how you want to be seen. This is a time, you know, with the sun and the moon in the 10th house, in the sign of Leo, where you're really being asked to step up. It's absolutely saying, do not hide at home anymore. Like, it's not where you belong. You're meant to be seen. You're meant to be celebrated. You're meant to be appreciated. You're meant to be able to put your incredible style, your incredible integrity, your incredible depth and intimacy and intensity into the world so other people get to experience you. You're meant to be a dominant person. And so I don't know what it is that you do, but right now you're constructing, and I think this is your mission if you choose to accept it. Right now, your mission is to start creating from that sense of I'm a person in my own right, and I'm going to take up space. God damn it! So this is big. Now, of course, it's going to lead on to the next eclipse, which is coming 2 weeks later, and that's going to be highlighting your 5th house. Now, the 5th house is where you come to ground your ideas. Because the 5th house is, where do you feel joy? Where do you experience that feeling of upliftment? What do you actually like doing? Where would you like to take up space that would feel joyful? So not hiding at home, but, and maybe you can do it from home, but you're not hiding anymore. It's like the big revelation is, all the time you're trying to hide yourself at home, everyone knows that something's not quite right, that you're meant to be seen, you're meant to be experienced. And so the more you try and hide at home and just pretend you're normal and pretend there's nothing to see here, that's why it's got so disruptive, because everyone can feel the incongruency of it. You were born with skills, you were born with strengths, and you've come to a pivot, like a fork in the road. And it's now time to start living through your strengths and not pretending you don't have them. Yeah. So the next eclipse, which is the lunar eclipse, it's taking you not to the drawing board, but it's taking you to like an art space, a creative space. Now, it might not be an art and painting space, but to me, it's like your own hidden retreat space where you get to decide how you're going to spend your time and energy, and you get to indulge yourself. And actually, I think that's part of the process. Like the process here is for you to step into who you are, step into what you love doing, step into the strengths that you were born with. And the next eclipse is going to get you doing it. Now, you might not be doing it as a career. It might be a hobby. It might just be, this is my life's mission now. And I also want to say, this could be about coming into parenthood, because like the 10th house up here, this is like, well, the 4th house down here, let's follow this flow again. You're too big to be playing it small at home. You're meant to take on more. Coming up to reconstructing yourself. The 4th and the 10th houses are also about being a parent and taking responsibility for things. And, you know, so the next lunar eclipse in the 5th house could actually be where you're ready to birth a child, conceive a child, raise a child, have child discussions. So, yeah, I mean, the whole message here is, Scorpio, you've been playing it safe. You can't do it anymore, because the more you play it safe, the more people are calling you out for it. You're stepping into your courage and your power, and then you're stepping into the creation of it. I don't think I could say it any clearer than that. So anyway, I'm going to leave that there. If you want to explore this with me in a reading, then just feel free to book directly into my diary. My Calendly address is just below. Or if you want to have a little chin wag within my free community on the school platform, then again, just come and join us there. It's a great place, really supportive. I also release some things a little bit earlier there than I do on YouTube. So it's my favorite preferred hangout place, and there's some great people. So, you know, I might see you, I might not, but step into that new you that's coming forwards. And this is a very special time. Loads of love to you. Bye for now. Hey there, Sagittarius. How are you doing? So this is a forecast for you to take you through the whole of the second eclipse season in 2026. Now, that sounds dramatic. And yeah, I've got a bit of skin in game here because I've got Sagittarius sun. And this is for you if you've got Sagittarius rising. You might also call it your ascendant, or Sagittarius sun. This is for you. What I'm going to do is guide you through the run up to this eclipse period, which started in earnest on the full moon in Aquarius on the 29th of July. It's 2 weeks ago, to where we are right now on the 12th of August, literally an hour away from the total solar eclipse. I'm going to go and sit in the Atlantic Ocean and watch the eclipse. I can't wait. And then taking you through to the next eclipse, the total lunar eclipse on the 28th of August. So what is the storyline that you're living through right now? That's what I'm most excited about. So before I go deep, I just want to say that if you would like to know more about the revelation, the construction, and the crossing, each of these moons, then I did a separate recording for the 12th of August 2026 on my channel specifically about this, where I look at Sabian symbols, asteroids, and a lot of different levels and layers. So if that's of interest, check it out, because it will absolutely feed into this recording for you right now. Anyway, let's get started. So where you've been living in this journey already is through the revelation that came up and into your awareness from the end of July. Now, this full moon in the sign of Aquarius was in a conjunction with Pluto, and then the Sun and Jupiter were in a cazimi in your 9th house. And so this was creating an unholy kind of battle between the 3rd and the 9th. And that is, it feels like there's lots of people controlling you at home and in your local environment. So in your community space, like your peers, your family, the sort of energy that you grew up in has probably felt a little bit too prescriptive, too prescribed, too known, and too experienced, too pedestrian. And it feels like that has been controlling you. And at the same time as that was happening, the Sun and Jupiter in the 9th house in that cazimi is saying, oh, for crying out loud, you know, there's so much out there. And these people, this environment, this kind of zeitgeist, it's not for you anymore. Like, you need so much more. You need something much bigger. And you don't need to have anything prescribed, because when you're in your flow, it's just going to come naturally to you. And the best way of thinking about it is, what do I have an appetite for right now? Because where you have a natural appetite, all of a sudden everything makes sense, and all of the materials, all the people, all the experience just comes right in. That Jupiter cazimi was highlighting this sense of learning, the freshness, the new perspective, the bigger vistas, all of that. That was a big part of what you needed. And that's where you are actually right now. So over the last couple of weeks, I think there's been a kind of rancor or a kind of fermentation of the bad feeling, you know, that people from your childhood, or the kind of thinking that you grew up with, that, and I don't mean to say small-mindedness, because I don't know the people you grew up with, and it's unfair for me to judge, but from your perception, from your perspective, it's just felt like you've been stuck in place with dinosaurs. like telling you how to live. And of course, you can already see they're extinct. And you're like, oh, why can't they see that? You know, if I follow that, I'm going to end up the same way. So yeah, right now, I think your construction, the total solar eclipse is happening in the 9th house. The 9th house is a place that I think is really buoyant. And FYI, this is where the total solar eclipse is for me right now. Now, I want to share something with you. And that is the last time there was an eclipse here around this part of your chart was in 2017, August 2017. Now, there could be a similar theme. Now, for me, that was the eclipse that was occurring just as I left, or just before I left England to come and move to Portugal. So eclipses can absolutely move you. And the 9th house is absolutely known for travel. And it's also known for broadening your vista, going somewhere foreign, learning a new language or learning something new, you know, not being in familiar territory. And I'll let you in on a secret. I didn't plan, or we didn't plan our move very well. I mean, we just knew we were going there. I'd never been to Portugal, but I'm glad to say I haven't actually been back to the UK for 9 years almost, like 9 years coming up. So it's obviously been a good move for me. And it can be a good move for you, but you might need to think like, what have I been doing since 2017? Like, what have I learned? How did I expand? Did I look away? Did I have a foreign travel? Did I study? The 9th house is also about writing and sharing and broadcasting. Like, are you going to become a content creator? Have you got a special skill that you're going to learn and then teach? Are you going to like go to the next level in your understanding of something? So there is something that is, I think, exciting. The 9th house is a place where we expand. And so it's interesting. You're expanding in the construction phase. So the next couple of weeks, I think you actually don't need to force yourself. All you need to think about is, where is my joy right now? What would make me feel expanded right now? If I could do anything and money's not an option and I literally can do anything, what would I do right now? What would make me feel like, as I said that, I felt this sense of relief. Where would the relief come for me right now if I could do anything? And that is what this construction phase is for you and for me, because it's happening in this part of my chart too. Where is that relief? Because where you feel expanded, that's the relief, and that's where you're meant to be. Now, where is this leading? Well, this is where it gets interesting, because it's going to move you. Is it going to move your house, or is it going to move your family? Is it going to move your roots? Is it going to move your sense of security? Do you learn something about yourself so you can actually root better? Maybe. I think what's going to happen is anywhere where you feel that old rooting, that old compost, that old soil that you were stuck in, it's like you've got a new pot. And maybe you do need to move, but what I actually think is coming up is between now and the next one in 2 weeks' time. It's time for you to be exciting and to develop everything that you want to develop and learn everything you want to learn. Just be curious and have fun. And then that is going to be leading on naturally to a change at home. And that can bring up a bit of a tension, because it's a full moon eclipse. So you're going to be pulled from your sense of status and your sense of business, your sense of acumen in the world, and like who you're being and how you stand in the world. And so it's tension. Like, you have to move, but you also have to show up. Like, where is it going to go? But it's a nice problem to have. And Uranus is in a T-square to both of those. So other people are going to have a say in this. It might be your partner. Your partner might suddenly bring you this surprise opening. So like, my advice here is just be the vibration you're meant to be right now at this sort of auspicious time for you. I mean, this is one of the best places, I think, to have the total solar eclipse, because it's auspicious and fun without being too devastatingly direct. You know, it's great. It's there to expand you. And as you're in flow, the flow changes and it redirects you, and all you have to do is participate with it. You don't have to bust a gut. So I'm going to leave that there, Sagittarius. Have a wickedy whack time. Like, really enjoy it. And if I can guide you through anything, if you want to have a chat about your chart, then just book into my diary. It's on Calendly. My link is below. Or maybe join us in the free community on School, where we all have a little chat. I mean, I try and respond to people on YouTube, but honestly, I put most of my time and my effort into the community, because to me, that's where astrology is really alive. So anyway, have a beautiful time and speak to you all soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Capricorn. This is a forecast for you, taking you through the whole of the final eclipse season. Now, by whole of the eclipse season, actually what I mean is the lead into the eclipse season, then the first eclipse itself, the total solar eclipse, which has literally just happened, and then the run up into the next lunar eclipse. Now, this particular one on the 28th of August, it's a total lunar eclipse. That particular degree of 453 Pisces is going to stay as one of those important degrees until the next eclipse comes along, and that won't be until the start of 2027. So it's gathering a lot of momentum, we could say. Now, if you want to know more about each of these three moons, I break them down in a video that I released yesterday, and it's titled with the 12th of August 2026. It's a video about the total solar eclipse, but I do mention the revelation, which I'll be talking about in a second, the construction and the crossing, but I look at it in depth. This particular forecast is just for you. So if you do want to go deeper and understand some of the asteroids that are playing into this storyline and also the Sabian symbols, then just check out that video. Anyway, so what's going on for you? Well, this is already your lived experience. So the full moon in Aquarius took place a couple of weeks ago, and it was emphasizing things in terms of your second house. Now, the second house is all about your resources, your money, but also about your self-esteem. Like, how do you value yourself? Do you really value yourself? Can you see that you are a resource in your own right? Can you see that there's so much more to your wealth than just your actual money? So it's everything to do with values. And your core values and how they're delivering, how they're developing. Now, the revelation, I think, is coming very much from the fact that this full moon was in a really tight conjunction with Pluto in your second house. Now, Pluto's been there for quite some time, around about 18 months or so. And in the second house, he is, I've just been bought some food. That's great. In the second house, Pluto is really transforming your ideas about your value. Now, Pluto faces us to, Pluto encourages us to face our shadows. It really shows us like those areas where we really fear to look. And so I actually think you've recently had a revelation about your own values, like how much are you worth? Now, that might be in terms of, a very sort of mechanistic calculation. You might have thought in terms of how much money you earn or how much your house costs, or, you might have added up the total sum of your assets and made some kind of summary judgment. However, you might also find that you've got ideas about your value and your worth that you're really not prepared to look at. So, for instance, there might be some things that you're really good at, but it's almost painful to look at, because Pluto shows us where we are afraid to look. And it's in these areas where we're a little bit afraid that we can be controlled. And so Pluto is showing us where you've got any kind of resistance to your own wealth, any resistance to owning more or being more, having a greater sense of influence. And it can also show us where we've try to control our wealth, and maybe unsuccessfully. Pluto often shows us where we almost become a problem in our own progress, where we almost jinx ourselves because we're trying too hard. And so again, if you feel like you've jinxed yourself, like you're trying too hard, and then actually the complete opposite happens, again, that's going to have a knock-on effect in terms of your values. So I think over the last couple of weeks, what has probably come out is, into your consciousness is a whole heap of stuff about your values. Now, that was in opposition to the Sun and Jupiter in a Cazimi, which absolutely shone the light onto how other people are valuing you, and to your relative value within a family system, or your relative value in terms of your relationship and other close relationships where you might have shared assets. And so it's almost like, this is how I value myself, and also the light is shone on how other people see me. So it's been pretty intense. Now we've actually got the total solar eclipse, which has just happened. And I think we're constructing a new future for ourselves. We might be about to pivot because we've recently had a revelation and we can see ourselves from a whole new perspective. And of course, this solar eclipse is taking place in your 8th house, encouraging you to explore everything to do with shared values and the ability to trust other people at a deeper level. Now, obviously, if you felt judged, and the 8th house, believe me, can be a real judgment fest. If you felt judged, and also if you're holding really strong judgments about yourself, you might not want to share any resources with anyone else. It might feel too painful to even have those conversations. Sometimes I work with people, regarding inheritances and things like that. And often these conversations are so, they're full of baggage. They've so much unexpressed emotion is sort of hidden underneath them. And so I really see this total solar eclipse is bringing about this massive clearing. This is here to show you that there is a new way and that you can find a new way forwards. But the secret with the 8th house is it comes with trust. So the big question right now is, how can you, learn to trust yourself a lot more? And as you start to trust yourself more, how can you trust others? Now, this is going to have a knock-on effect, because 2 weeks later, on the 28th of August, there's going to be a full moon eclipse in the 3rd house, which is very much about your early childhood, your local community. This is where you're known. This is actually also where you're liked, but it can also involve things with your siblings. So if there is something to do with inheritances going on, especially if you've undervalued yourself, you might find that this also has a knock-on effect in terms of your siblings. But this one is bringing you back to a time when maybe you knew your value, you knew your place, and you knew you belonged, even if it was uncomfortable. So you're coming into a time of learning about belonging, possibly from a healed perspective. Now, I say that because, your ascendant is in the sign of Capricorn, and it's an earth sign. And right now we've got Chiron in fellow earth sign here in the 5th house, which is all about encouraging your creativity. And I think also encouraging you to focus on what you love. And to me, this is bringing in a theme of healing with the solar eclipse in the 8th house. Again, bringing in this feeling of healing. I think by the time the total lunar eclipse comes by, you're back in your community, you're back locally, you're in a known space, a known social space, but now there's an increase in the level of trust in yourself, and also a level of trust increase with the people around you. So I actually think this whole eclipse season is about trust, honestly. From start to finish, you're learning how to trust yourself more. And actually, the more you trust yourself first, that's when, funnily enough, you're able to trust other people. Maybe because you realize just how difficult it is sometimes to be nice to ourselves. And then we realize, we're all in the same boat, or we're, all very similar. And we might cut each other some slack. So to me, this is a time where you're going to be moving forwards, crossing into a whole new way of being, but it's coming from a greater level of trust in abundance and trust in your core value. So this is a way of moving on. Now, from a Capricorn perspective, you might think, oh, that doesn't sound like moving on. It just sounds like I've changed my opinion about myself, or I've maybe developed a few skills, but it doesn't sound like there's a big moving on. But even if the effects of these are very subtle at first, they will start to compound as you grow in trust. So that's where I'm going to leave this, Capricorn. Maybe not so dynamic, but I think this could actually have a much stronger value, when you look back on where you were at the start of this forecast to where you are at the end, and also at the beginning of 2027 as the next eclipse starts to come in. So I'm going to leave that there. Lots of love to you. If you would like me to go deeper with you and to explore maybe some of these issues to do with value and how you might use Pluto in your second house to help you and assist you more and more, so that it doesn't become a hindrance, and just get in touch. All of my details are below. You can invite me to work with you on Calendly, or maybe join me for a conversation in my school community on school.com/feelgood astrology. So have a great eclipse season and catch up with you all soon. Bye for now. Hey there, Aquarius. How you doing? This is a forecast for you if you've got Aquarius ascendant, or also known as rising sign, or if you have Aquarius sun. Now, this is a forecast that's taking you through the period leading up to the total solar eclipse, which has just happened, and then the period straight after, taking us until the next total eclipse, which is a total lunar eclipse. Now, you might ask, why am I going back to the 29th of July? And I always think that the eclipse season starts 2 weeks before and it ends 2 weeks after, or it ends when the next eclipse comes along. Now, the reason I said that in slightly hushed tones is that on the 28th of August, there isn't actually another eclipse until the beginning of 2027. So this particular eclipse is going to have lasting effects. We're going to be feeling it for much longer. So I want to pace you through what each of these stages of this eclipse season is bringing about. Now, I've anecdotally called them the revelation, the construction, and the crossing. If you want to know a little bit more about each of these, like the full moons and the new moon, which are these two eclipses, then have a look at my video on the 12th of August 2026, where I look at the actual moons themselves at a much deeper level, and in particular look at asteroids and also Sabian symbols. So there's a lot of layered meaning in there. But for this particular reading for you, I'm just going to keep it with the flow and where is it showing up in your chart. So let's get going. In terms of the last couple of weeks, following on from the full moon in Aquarius, which took place in your first house, this is actually one of the most sensitive places to have a full moon in the first house. This is about your persona, your body, how you're perceived, how you look. It absolutely is talking very much about your personality. Now, the 10th house can be very public facing and people get a real sense of you. But here, this is really about your identity. And so this is, I think, really speaking about big, longer term changes in terms of how you see yourself. Given that that full moon was also in a very tight conjunction with Pluto, and that the sun was in an almost exact cazimi with Jupiter in the 7th house, and also the boat or the basket was in full operation at this time, I really think that this was a very revealing moment in time. So, from 29th of July, this particular full moon, I think, is bringing about this whole new sense of who you are. This new identity is coming out of the layers of all of the planetary placements that have been coming into effect really since midway through last year, in particular a little bit before then. In fact, when Pluto came into your first house, that's really when it started to develop. And so there is this I would say this kind of real deep desire to transform, and maybe you haven't known up until now how you're exactly going to transform, but you just felt that sense of pressure that something about your identity was going to shift and change. Well, I think the full moon in Aquarius probably expedite what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think now. Is expedited? No. Have I said that right? I still don't know. Please write in the comments. But it's like that decision has just suddenly got faster. It's come in and you're understanding how you want to shift now. It just feels like something has clicked in. And I also think that it's clicked in because of how you've observed your partners. So, with the Jupiter cazimi at the time of the full moon, your partners, the people around you, your clients maybe as well, the people you work with, they've all seemed kind of really quite happy in themselves. It feels like they've been quite optimistic, and maybe you're realizing maybe I've been a bit too heavy, maybe I've being a bit too intense. I mean, that can absolutely happen when Pluto comes through your first house. And so I think the juxtaposition of, hey, lighten up over there, that is also added into how you're developing. Now it comes to the total solar eclipse 2 weeks later. And this has literally just happened in the last hour or two. And I went to the beach hoping to see it. And sadly, all the clouds came literally as the eclipse started in Portugal. Clouds just came straight in front of the sun. It's gutting. But anyway, I know it has happened. So this total solar eclipse is showing you where you're building your new identity. Now, obviously, identities normally live in the first house. And over here in the seventh house, this is where we're building an identity in terms of our relationships. You know, maybe we're building our identity by understanding the people we've got in our lives. And to me, this is giving you permission to work on your relationships. And also, if you're single, this could also be an invitation to get into a relationship. But this is, I think, helping you to learn from the people that you love and learn from the people around you. I always think the seventh house is a mirror. You know, it really is mirroring. It's either showing us very clearly who we are, or it's showing us completely the opposite. Either way, we really get to see ourselves from a different perspective. And so, you know, from the full moon in Aquarius at the end of July to today's solar eclipse, there's no escaping you. It's absolutely no escaping you. And if you think that the people around you that you absolutely love are happy, then isn't it kind of cool to not mimic them, but recognize what's good about them, recognize what you love about people. And I really think it's kind of rubbing off. Now, it's a really funny thing to suggest that you might be learning more about yourself just because of the love that you have for other people. But here's the thing, like Aquarius is absolutely known for being really independent and being an independent thinker and absolutely being a little bit on the rebellious side and also being quite serious. And so it's kind of interesting. This is almost like an alter ego moment. This total solar eclipse is really giving you a chance to see yourself because of the amazing people in your life and maybe encouraging you to develop some of the skills that you see, you know, around the people that you love. And so I do think this is important. Now, also, I want to say when we have eclipses in the first, the fourth, the seventh, or the 10th houses, these are angular houses. These are also indicating that things are about to shift. It may well be that a shift that's going on for you because of someone close to you will also have a knock-on effect in terms of how you see yourself, and ergo bring on a shift in your identity. So they're inextricably linked. Anyway, this is moving you towards the next eclipse, which is coming up on the 28th of August. And this is a full moon eclipse. And this is highlighting everything to do with your value. Now, at the time of this eclipse, the sun is going to be in your 8th house. Again, talking about the values that the people around you have about you and your experience with other people versus a very strong need to understand your own value. So you can see this whole journey from the full moon in Aquarius to the total solar eclipse, the 1st to the 7th. This is about who am I and who am I in relationship to this person. Then the story around the 28th of August is changing. It's not who am I and who am I in relationship to them. It's now what am I worth and who values me and who values me in comparison to these people over here and how do they value me. So this is really a journey from the end of July to the end of August, a journey of identity into value. Now, the last thing I want to share with you is the fact that this particular last eclipse, it's going to have a long lasting effect. And it's also got some very shocking energy attached to it. So the moon and the sun at the time of the eclipse are in a very strong square, a T-square, to Uranus. Now, Uranus is one of your ruling planets, and Uranus is in the 5th, which can show where things with children can get a little bit shocking or a little bit interesting or a little bit wayward. But it can also show where your value is affected by the things that you love, the things that you love doing, your talent, the things that lift you up, the things that bring you joy. You might also find that you value yourself differently when you're falling in love or when you go deeper into intimacy. And so I also think this lunar eclipse is encouraging you to go deeper into your relationships, because when you're going deep into your relationships, you thereby understand your own value because of that comparison. And so if you're happy to fall in love, and if you're happy to recognize yourself because of your relationships, I think this could actually be quite a spontaneous thing. You could use the Uranus energy to think, okay, how can we become more spontaneous in our love? How can we allow our love to lift us up? This could really transform your relationship because you're transforming yourself. Now, if you're feeling a little bit awkward and the pressure of the people in your life and how you perceive them judging you, if that all feels a little bit difficult and a little bit shocking, then Uranus at the time of this lunar eclipse, I think, is likely to bring in maybe some extra news, maybe a bit of a revelation. So yeah, I guess from start to finish, what I want to share with you is this whole journey through the second eclipse season of this year is about your relationship to self, your relationship to others, and also value. How can you increase it? And how can you also increase the level of trust in yourself? So I'm going to leave that there. I think that's enough pointers. If you would like me to go more deeply into your chart, then feel free to connect with me. You can book directly into my Calendly calendar online, or you can connect with me via my free school community. It's www.school.com. That's skool.com/feelgoodastrology. Whether I help you or not, I absolutely wish you this beautiful time where relationships can unfold, unpack, and evolve. Lots of love to you. Bye for now. Hey there, Pisces. So this is a forecast for you, whether you've got Pisces ascendant or rising sign, or if you've got your sun in Pisces. This is to take you through the whole of the second eclipse season, I guess, of 2026. Now, the first part of it you've been living through for the last couple of weeks, and I've put this in because I always think looking at events on their own is a little bit meaningless. You know, we need to understand the context of what has led us to where we are. And so I'm talking very much about the revelation that we've already gone through, leading us to the construction, the total solar eclipse that's literally just happening. And then further into the next 2 weeks when we have the final eclipse of 2026. Now, if you'd like to know about any of these moons in much greater detail, including asteroid information or Sabian symbol information, then go to my other release about the 12th of August 2026, the total solar eclipse. There's a lot of stuff in there. But if you're really just wanting to find out about how these energies are going to be affecting you with a Pisces energy, then you're in the right place. Let's get cracking. So the story of the final eclipse season really started for you at the end of July with the full moon in Aquarius in your 12th house. This is a really private part of our chart. And, you know, you've had Pluto in here for quite some time. And then this full moon was in a really intense, tight conjunction with Pluto. This makes us really emotional, really intense about things, and intensely private, really needing intense amounts of sleep and rest. And it's like there is this dissolution going on. You see, the 12th house is the last house of the birth chart. The first is very much about what you're birthing into the world and your new story. And you go through all the houses until you come to the end as you're preparing to let go of the story you've been playing with, like, I guess you're coming to let go of the previous story that you've been living through. And so this full moon in Aquarius, I think, would have brought up some very, very strong emotions, especially seeing as the Sun and Jupiter in your 6th house in a cazimi were really highlighting your actual day-to-day story. So you've got the real contrast. You've been living in the contrast of your actual real 3D physical life with all the ins and outs, with saving money, watching your health, taking care of yourself, going to work, managing your house, etc., versus this very strong desire to kind of rest, let go, forget. And it's an interesting process, isn't it? When you start to let go of an identity, when you start to say, does this even still matter? I do all of these things in my very real life, and yet there's this feeling of meaninglessness, which I think really does come up with the 12th house. So I really think the biggest revelation that you've been going through over the last couple of weeks up until today's date will have been very much around meaninglessness. What happens if I can't find the meaning anymore? What do I do? And how do I control my inner thoughts? Pluto here absolutely wants to control the thoughts. In fact, Pluto in the 12th can sometimes bring up old fears and feelings like, other people's control can be imposed upon you. So, it can bring up some almost nightmarish scenarios. So if you've been feeling a little bit under the weather or under par, that's probably why. It's very, very intense thinking. So where do you find yourself now with this total solar eclipse? This energy is really squarely in your 6th house. Now, because there's also the north node that's just coming into Aquarius, we've got the south node that's just coming into Leo right now. And so this total solar eclipse, which is in your 6th house, really inviting you to look at creating a new story for your everyday life. So it might be that you review how you live your life. You might have found that some of the routines, some of the things that you've done over and over and over again have become very formulaic, and you might be wondering, well, what's the meaning of it? Like, why am I doing this? What's it all about? And so I think that's, one of the things that's been going on. But with this total solar eclipse, there's this new desire for a new story, how can we create a meaningful life that we don't want to escape from, but that works? The 6th house where this total solar eclipse is, it's a house where we want to be functional. It's a house where we need to be able to pay our bills. We need to be able to earn money. We need to be able to make ends meet and also have enough energy for ourselves. Our body works well. And so it's like, how do you create a life that is regular, but that has the meaning, that has the richness? And so I think that's one of the big questions right now. So you're in a construction period, trying to construct or pivot your life from one organized life that maybe was lacking some meaning or context, and now you're trying to do it in a new way. The total solar eclipse in a conjunction with the south node is indicating that whatever you're creating here, whatever you're constructing, is a step away from the past. So you might remember times when you've done it well, but you're still not going to copy it. You're moving into something completely new. And of course, because it's completely new, it can be quite inspiring. It's a journey. And this is what's leading on to the next eclipse, which is a total lunar eclipse. It's the last eclipse of the year, happening on the 28th of August. And it's happening in absolutely the biggest house in anybody's birth chart, which is the 1st house. And so this is a time when you're coming to understand yourself from a whole new perspective. And you're going to be moving forwards with that new contextual information about yourself. So to piece this together, the revelation, it's all meaningless, coming to how can I piece my life back together with greater meaning? How can I have greater richness and less kind of banality? To, okay, now it's time to step forwards with a new identity. It's almost like you have to let go of something that's held you back. Now, this lunar eclipse that's coming in on the 28th, it's not all plain sailing. It's a pretty spiky one. So you got the sun in the 7th house, the full moon or the eclipsed full moon in the 1st, but you've also got Uranus and Gemini. Now, this is interesting because Uranus and Gemini is in a T-square to both the sun and the moon, connecting you and connecting a partner in the home. The 4th house is about the home. So Uranus in the 4th house is about needing to experience difference at home, needing to have a fresh new start, needing to have something change and innovate. Maybe there's a new person coming in, or maybe there's a person leaving. Maybe the way you use your house and your home needs to change. So there's extra information coming around the time of the total lunar eclipse, and that is you're a different person. You're on a new journey, and because of that, how you are at home with your family is likely to change, which will have a knock-on effect with your partner. And of course, what you're working on right now is how do you balance it? How do you make it all work? How do you get into these new habits? So I would say this whole eclipse blueprint from the end of July to the end of August is about you letting go of meaningless stories and coming into a richer, more meaningful life, and how you need to let go of anything that has kept you in that feeling of meaninglessness. So it's I think it's asking you to have courage, and I think it's asking of you to find great levels of presence, to just be and to trust that as you allow things to die off, or as you allow things to pass out of your life, that it's happening in the right way at the right time for the right reasons. This is going to require some poise. However, this lunar eclipse is really transforming you. And that 4 degrees Pisces is one of these special degrees that's going to carry over until the next eclipse comes along early 2027. So this is no mean feat that you're involved in right now, Pisces. This is absolutely transforming your experience. So I hope that's helpful for you. If you would like me to explore your chart at a deeper level, then just book into my diary on Calendly, the link's below, or you might want to join me in my free community on the school platform. Again, the link's below. Have a beautiful eclipse season and catch up with you another time. Lots of love. Bye for now.